Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting, Board of Education, Monday, February 22nd, 2016. Do we have a roll call, Mrs. Perino?
You got it. Okay, Simmons?
Here.
Odom? Carroll? Here. Marks? Present. Ford? Here. Huckabee? Here. Paredes?
Here, and a quorum is present. Next, we have audience comments. And at this time, we don't have any audience comments, so we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is a presentation from Heather Hill School.
Dr. Pierce, could you please come up and introduce your staff and your wonderful students for this great presentation this evening?
Just to get my voice, I have whatever calling now. Thank you, Dr. Lester. Good evening, members of the board, colleagues, parents, and students, distinguished guests as well. Tonight it gives me great pleasure to showcase our students' 21st century abilities. In honor of Black History Month, they will demonstrate their rendition of notable African American inventors and the young entrepreneurs they have faced when they pitch their ideas to people who are much like our sharks in the Shark Tank tonight. They will also demonstrate their creativity by sharing the commercials that they have written, produced, and directed themselves. Though technology has changed through the years, there will always be a need for creative entrepreneurs, communication, and collaboration. This may be a preview of things to come. So, Mrs. McWhorter and Mrs. Britton, I will turn this over to you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have the pleasure of looking back into the past and reimagining how some of our innovative Black history makers would have positioned themselves before the Shark Tank. We're also bringing you a sneak preview. You're not getting the full meal, you're getting a sneak preview of the full 5-course meal, which will happen on Wednesday at Parker Junior High School at 6:30. Our students have worked very, very hard, and one of the extensions of this project, or this program, we've had the pleasure of partnering with a lot of community members. We've learned a lot about entrepreneurs, Black-owned businesses that are right here in our own backyard in the south suburbs. So we hope that you will appreciate this and enjoy it as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. It's quite the labor of love. Thank you so much. I bring you Black Inventors Dive into the Shark Tank. Our first entrepreneur, our Shark Tank investor is Lori Grenier. Lori is the queen of QVC. Lori holds more than 100 patents, and she has launched more than 400 products, grossing $500 million in sales. Thank you, Lori. Our second investor is Mr. Damon John. Damon John is a fashion mogul. He has dominated the fashion industry, and now he's a branding expert behind multiple global brands, generating billions and billions of dollars in sales. Our final shark, our guest shark, Miss Oprah Winfrey, is a talk show host, producer, actress, philanthropist, internationally known media mogul, and owner of the successful O Network, as well as her own magazine empire. Please welcome all of tonight's sharks.
I recently invented what is becoming a popular snack, which I call the potato chips. I'm pretty sure you sharks heard the saying, you can't please everyone. But take a look over here, and I'll show you how unpleasing a customer turned out to be the best day of my life. How are these for you?
These fries are horrible. Go take them back and make them again.
Oh, please, accept my apology. I'll go make them over for you. How are these for you?
These fries are too thick. Go take them back and do them again and make them right this time.
Okay, I'll go make them once more. Or I'll show you things. I'll make these potato chips French fries that you won't be able to pick them up with a toothpick. How are these for you, ma'am?
These are just what I wanted. Please and thank you. I really enjoy these. These are really good.
I like the taste and the crunch is terrific. How much of an investment are you asking for?
After this experience, I put a basket of this very popular snack on each table in my restaurant. Customers can't get enough of it.
The taste and the crunch is terrific. How much of an investment are you asking for?
I'm asking for $10,000 for 10% of my company.
I like them too. They're really delicious. But food is not my strong suit. And for that reason,
You have your potatoes in grocery stores? No, right now I'm just selling them in my restaurant, but I can't make enough of them. 90% of my customers order them. I'm trying to figure out a way to package them because I have customers coming into my restaurant who just want a bag of potato chips. It's my goal to get them in the supermarket. I'll admit, they do taste really good, but this is not a business. This is just the food people like. Sorry, I'm out.
This is just too new of an idea for me. I don't see any value in a thinly fried potato. I'm out.
Sharks, thank you for your time, but I guarantee in no time, people all around the world will be buying my potato chips in stores all around the world. You'll regret this.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
have you seen that movie, The Boy? It was so scary, but my sister was like, no, it is not. So then I was like, hold on, wait, look at that jacket. Lay, where you get that jacket from? Oh, hey guys, my mom and dad got it from Keller Custom at 15431 Crawford Avenue, Markham, Illinois. Hey, now I can get my own jacket. That's nice. That jacket is on fleek. Let's go get us a jacket, Braxton.
Oh, also, it's Keller with a K and Customs with a K.
Come on, Lee.
And another commercial. After a commercial from Keller Customs, we now bring you something to appease your appetite, snacks from Paparazzi.
Have you ever tried paparazzi popcorn? It is so good. My whole family loves it.
All the celebrities like it. Their popcorn tastes like buffalo Williams. She is a comer, and do not forget the key lime pie.
Oh my gosh, key lime pie, my favorite.
You can eat this popcorn at 183rd Street in Hazel Crest, Illinois. It's only $9.99. Paparazzi, 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 paparazzi.
Thank you to our sponsors, and we return you to the Shark Tank.
Absolutely. After that event last night absolutely. After that event last night, me and my husband were so glad the babysitter could stay home late and put the kids to bed. Hold on, Jim. Someone's knocking on my door like my house is on fire. What's wrong, Jim?
Kim, Dan got in an accident at the hospital. He's at St. James Hospital. I've been calling your line, but your phone's been busy, so I decided to make a 90-minute drive to your house.
Dan, easy, Yada. I gotta go.
Come on, hang up the phone. We gotta go. Let's go.
I am Dr. Shirley Jackson, and I have a solution to keep people like him from missing important telephone calls. It's called No More Missed Calls. With the technology I created, I will guarantee you no more missed calls.
No more missed calls. That's an out there name. I don't know.
What's your background, Dr. Jackson?
Ever since I was a little girl, I've always been fascinated by math and science. I've graduated from the Industry of Massachusetts. I've earned the MIT in doctoral physics.
Wow, I'm totally intrigued. Tell us about your caller ID. Wait, let me guess. You can identify the person calling before you even pick up the phone. Wow, look at that. I'm physics. Psychic, sorry.
You're exactly right.
I'm in. I'm in.
Kim. Hey, Yada. After that scare last week with Dan, I ordered caller ID and call waiting, and I love it. Hold on, Yada. This is Dan calling right now. I have to tell him to pick up a gallon of milk from the store before he gets home.
I just called to say I love you. I just called to say how much I care. I just called.
Good evening. My name is Morgan Williams. I am a fourth grader at Heather Hill School. Dr. Shirley Jackson, a female black inventor, conducted a number of successful experiments in the 1970s. She also used her skill to improve advances in telecommunications research while working at Bell Laboratories. Dr. Jackson conducted breakthrough scientific research. Her research is responsible for creating inventions that helped others design technology we sometimes take for granted. She helped make it possible for us to enjoy portable fax machine, touch-tone telephone, solar cells, fiber optic cables, and the technology behind caller ID and call waiting. Without Dr. Jackson's development of fiber optic cables, Flossmoor School District 161 would not be a 21st century learning community. Students, staff, administrators, and parents can thank Dr. Shirley Jackson for bringing affordable telecommunication devices into our classrooms. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Order, please have your students come up. We'd like to give them an appreciation certificate.
When you give your names, or just come up now?
They can come on up. Oh, you want to introduce them? Go right ahead.
The first student is Mary Holland. Our next student is Mr. Braxton Pryor. Braxton. Next we have the lovely Alexis Damon. The very talented Carson Brownfield. Basketball phenom, Mr. Lee Marks III. And the vigorous talents of Morgan Williams, aka Triple Winfrey. And the lovely Jalen Harris, who brings us specialty in telecommunications. Stylish Xavier White. Certainly so, Mr. Jamarion Best.
Okay, parents, would you like to get a quick picture of everybody together? Can I grab a picture, Mr. Lee?
Hey, I don't have all this stuff. I'm working on it.
This one.
Thank you again, Heather Hill, that was fantastic. Next on the agenda, we have a legislation update from State Representative Al Riley.
Thank you. Actually, I wish I could have stayed. You're going to spend money for anything in the state. That's exactly what you should spend it on our children. We've got some trying times down in Springfield. One of the things that I wanted to say right off the top is 161 is a great district, and you have a lot of really good state representatives and state senators in this area. So, you know, I came because I was invited. But one of the people that I'm sure you do know, if you don't know, you should get to know him, is State Representative Will Davis. Will Davis chairs K through 12 appropriations in the House. Now there's a K through 12, there's an elementary and secondary substantive committee. They talk about issues of policy and so forth. You got to talk to the people who have the money, or don't have the money as the case may be. And Will has done a tremendous job since he's chairing that committee. So I just want to let you know a few things, and we only have a little bit of time. I got to go to another event. You only have so much time on the agenda. But just consider all of us as people that you can come to on an ongoing basis. There's myself, there's Anthony DeLuca, Toy Hutchinson, all of us. And one of the things that distinguishes all of us is that we've always sat on elementary and secondary education appropriations, all of us, either in the House or the Senate, and the same thing about higher education. So it's very important to us. One of the things that I do is always present this preamble. The preamble has not changed much since we became a state in 1818. Some tweaks to it at the last CONCON in 1970, but look at what it does. It mimics our federal preamble. Look how beautiful it is. Health, safety, and welfare. Eliminate poverty and inequality, and so on and so forth. Some would say we haven't done a good job doing any of those things recently. One of the things that I wanted to say, people talk about the property tax freeze and some of the other things you've heard about. Again, a property tax freeze sounds real good. Everybody wants to freeze their property tax. These issues are very involved, however. And when you talk about something like freezing property taxes, you have to think about the local units of government that would hurt, like school districts. Some would say, well, you know, you need to at least have an up or down vote on some of the governor's initiatives. Well, we did. Look at that, property tax freeze, look at the bills. House Bill 690, and all of those amendments, 691, 692, 695, it failed. It failed. I voted against it because I thought it was egregious. People on the other side of the aisle from me voted against it because it was not an eclectic part of the governor's turnaround agenda. But it failed. And look at some of the things that it, you know, endeavored to do. And again, this would hurt local school districts and other units of government. We have to change the way that we tax in the state of Illinois. But that's an ongoing process that everybody's got to be part of. Clearly, if you're going to fund schools primarily on property taxes, then there has to be a modicum of fairness. Otherwise, we'll always have the divides and the disparities that we have. Even richer districts out south. And I used to tell, you know, I have Lincoln Way North is in my district. I used to tell the old superintendent, it's good to say that you've got all of these things going and maybe you do better than some of the other districts around you, but Newport Valley is still beating the hell out of you. And so is New Trier. And so inequality in funding hurts everyone, frankly. And that's something that we're working on. We had this bill, Senate Bill 2042. There was an attempt to keep even federal funds from coming down and being distributed within the state. We had this bill, it's a bipartisan bill, we really needed it. And I have a lot of things on here. I give this presentation, I made little changes to different bodies, but one of the things that it did do was it gave a lot of funding that had not been there, that should have been there. It's one thing to hold up state funding, it's another thing to try to hold up federal funding. So we gave money to the State Board of Education. Look at that big appropriation there. That wasn't all of it. Essentially, the appropriation for K through 12 education in this state In FY15 was about $13,300,000,000. It went up to in FY16 to about $13,700,000,000. But these were special monies that came down from the federal government that were being held up, and we got them. And other things, human services and so on and so forth, public safety. Education monies do not exist in a vacuum. For example, Governor Rauner, the only bill that he passed, the budget is a great big amorphous thing. The budget of the state of Illinois, when I go around to schools, I ask the kids, what do you think the budget of the state of Illinois is? So they'll say different things. But a lot of their parents don't know. The budget of the state, GRF, General Revenue Fund, that comes out of your pocket, we're fighting over what it should be, but we introduced a bill, $36 billion. If you look at intergovernmental transfers and other funds and so forth, the budget of the state of Illinois is about $75 billion. It's a lot of money. You can't run education by itself, however. So education was funded. But here are some ancillary programs that help a lot of school districts, like Teen Reach, especially in the city of Chicago, zeroed out. Community service programs, zeroed out. Youth jobs programs, there were no youth jobs. Last summer, zeroed out. And homeless youth services. I was on a panel the other night, and someone asked about what can we do about the homeless youth that go to school. Sort of a forgotten population that they're there. We did have, a modicum of monies in there for that. It was cut also. So here's the 2016 budget. Now people will say, and I want everybody to tell their friends, well, why don't you guys pass it? But we passed the budget. A budget was passed. It was vetoed. Now no matter what your ideology may be, a budget was passed. The House and the Senate, we have our competition. We don't always get along. But every year we get together and pass a budget. How you pass it is the governor is supposed to present a balanced budget. Doesn't always happen. The governor presents the budget. We take about 4 to 5 months going over that budget, having hearings. Some of you come down and testify. And we have our budget ideas, House and Senate. Then what happens at that point, it has always happened, under Republican governments, under Democratic governments. The governor's Office of Management and Budget gets together with our people in the House and the people in the Senate. The Republicans and the Democrats, we call them budgeteers, they get together and craft what we then end up signing in all the other years. That didn't happen this last year. But a budget was passed. The House and the Senate passed the budget at the end of May. Everything was vetoed except for K-12 education, as I mentioned before. Then how are we operating? How are checks being processed? If you have different needs, how does that happen? It is because a branch of government that generally does not and shouldn't get involved in the budget process had to get involved. It is because of court order and consent decree. That's why we're running anything. Essentially, on the left-hand side are the things that are being spent. About 90% of the FY16 budget is being spent, all of those things. Here's what's not. Higher education, there are some grants from K through 12. A lot of the human service programs, many community-based organizations have closed up. Other state programs and transfers out. So that's not being funded right now. So thank goodness K through 12 at least was funded. But as I showed before, there are ancillary kinds of needs. Maybe a kid has a parent in jail, and there are certain things that need to be taken care of in terms of that parent, which will help that kid flourish in school. Will those programs together? 2017. Many of you probably heard the budget address by the governor. No matter what you thought of it, one of the things that the governor said was he was going to fully fund education. Now, again, and you can really, we all played a part in it, but I give credit where it's due. Will Davis did a tremendous job. He basically almost single-handedly got people together and raised proration up from 87% to 92%. It's still proration. That's a 5% increase. We also came up with about $270 million that went to indigent districts, and that was a lot. And again, that was a bipartisan agreement. Well, the governor says that he's going to get rid of proration and fund all children at the foundation level, which really hasn't changed a whole lot, $6,119. There's something called, everybody know what EFAB is? Educational Funding Advisory Board. There is a very important committee called EFAB. It came up during the Ryan administration. And basically what they do is they get together, educators, researchers, and so forth, and they try to come up with a model to make a determination of what would a high-quality education cost. These are basically kids that are at the 85th percentile in terms of the state test. And it's about $8,900. So even if you fully fund the foundation level, there's a big difference between $61.19 and $8,900. And so when you look at, disparities in terms of SAT and ACT scores and all those kinds of things, and I'm a statistician by profession. I taught the courses that most people don't want to take. I can tell you that there are determinants of all of those things, all of those metrics that deal with success of a child. Many of them can be explained by money, how much goes into their districts. God bless, districts that are EAV rich, but all districts are EAV rich. If this is public education, then all kids ought to get shot. All kids ought to get shot. People in rich districts should not get penalized because they're in a rich district. You live in Glencoe, then you get this increment. But there should be a floor, basically, that all kids, are funded equal. So that's what we're fighting for. So he's going to propose funding K through 12 at the foundation level. Great. The only problem is there's about a $3.5 billion disparity between what COGFA, that's a bunch of forecasting, government forecasting agency that is an independent agency down in Springfield. It's about a $3.5 billion difference between what COGFA says we're going to receive in revenues and what the governor is proposing. That sound familiar? Everybody had a deficit. That's something that is not even bound by party. Everybody comes in with, wanting to spend more than we actually have, and then we negotiate it down. He then said, this wasn't in the speech, that essentially that disparity would be filled if the executive branch receives emergency authority. And that can't happen from our perspective. For example, like the ability to set rates of reimbursement for health care. The governor doesn't have those kinds of powers. The legislature really doesn't have those kinds of powers. We grant them to agencies and commissions to do some of those things. Special funds, tax money that would normally go to municipalities. Everybody heard of the LGDF? You get all these things, please don't cut the LGDF. That's the local government distributive fund, monies that comes back to local municipalities. It may not necessarily come back to school districts, but again, there's this relationship between you and the municipalities that you serve. Pension investments, and I talked about ratepayers. So there's a lot of work to do. There should not be a caveat regarding funding for education. I'll fund this if these things happen. Because frankly speaking, and I try to keep these things nonpartisan because they really are, to be honest. But a lot of those things, some of which I might agree with, a lot that I don't, are non-budgetary items. I've been down in Springfield for 5 terms. Whether I have term limits doesn't affect the budget. It affects whether or not Will Davis and Toy Hutchinson and those people who have gotten tenure because you trust them to send them back. There's a determination of whether they will be there or not. But that's not a budgetary item. So those are some of the things that we're kind of fighting. So again, I'll take some questions if you have time for them, but thank you for your interest in good government. This is all about good government because one of the things that I really say to everyone You know, I'm in Springfield, I serve in the House, I'm assistant majority leader. A lot of very important positions. One of the most, if not the most, important board to be on is a local school board. Because you actually shape what's going to happen to all those great kids. They're going to go on and do good things. School districts do so much with so little. We're not even funding you. And again, this has nothing to do with partisanship. Republicans and Democrats, we're not funding you the way we're supposed to. We're in violation of the Constitution because we don't give you everything that the Constitution says we're supposed to. But at the same time, everybody has to understand that if you want some things, you're going to have to pay for them. And I think, as I said before, this is worth paying for. This is definitely worth paying for. Hopefully we can get everything straightened out in higher ed, so when they finish 12th grade, they'll have a place to go to. Because right now, that's in trouble too. So thank you for your time, and if there's a couple of questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Mr. Riley.
Yes.
Thank you for representing us. Helping us do a better job depends in large part on allowing us to use our resources the best way we as a local government unit see fit.
Mm-hmm. I know what's coming. Go ahead.
Where am I going?
Go ahead, finish up.
No, go ahead. Tell me where I'm going.
You can talk about mandates.
We're going to talk about unfunded mandates.
See, I'm good.
Well, I teed it up for you. Now, help me out.
There's a couple of bills that have been passed. And as a matter of fact, how soon do you forget? The guy who's the executive director of the Illinois Association of School Boards, I served with him, I forget his name. He came up with a bill, about that very thing. But again, let's take off our hats of where we are. I'm taking off my state rep hat, putting on my public policy hat. There's a lot of mandates. There were some mandates that existed, especially since this is Black History Month, that helped me even be here. So all mandates aren't egregious, all mandates aren't bad. I do think that there are some mandates that really have a big and sometimes egregious impact on local school districts. But at the same time, I might turn around and say, because I'm in a deliberative body, not on the city council, not on, even though many people on the board, are from, both parties, you tend to agree with most things. I've got 118 people I got to deal with. I got to get 60 of them to pass anything. So it's a different kind of situation. And some people would tell you, that's great, let's cut back those mandates, but then I don't want to pay for the pension of the superintendent you hire.
But how does...
so...
But I don't necessarily see the correlation between putting in some mandates that really might be better left to local governing units
I agree with you.
And paying the pensions.
But...
Pensions are actually now constitutional. We got a big... to me, that's a whole nother piece.
But you deal with it in Springfield. There's a lot of things that you may not think make a lot of difference that you deal with in Springfield.
But what about having to teach and how much we teach anti-bullying, or how many hours a week we have in gym, or some things that we are told we have to do?
Sure.
How about you help us out and let us make the decisions? Give us some guidelines, but let us make the decisions.
Well, the first thing, let me say this, and here's what I don't want happening. When I go to a lot of forums, I got to answer for the executive branch, my own branch, so I'm not trying to do that. Because whatever you might have a beef with, I might have voted your way. But let me just say this.
Not an individual question. I'm just another elected official.
I understand.
I'd like you to consider it.
I understand that, but I'm one person. The rest of you need 60. But you see, here's the thing. Community. Get ready for those kinds of things, because the cost shift may come.
Probably is.
And there's a lot of things that, again, as I say, a lot of this is really the void of the party. There's things the governor wants to do which will incur on your ability as a local body to do what you do. You can't have local control when you want it and no local control when you don't want it. I am a proponent. Let me just finish.
You interrupted me first, but I'll let you go. That's okay.
I believe.
Let's finish.
All that I'm trying to say is this, because we're debating on a point that's not really worth debating. We can always take this offline. I understand what you're saying about unfunded mandates, but I'm saying there's a lot of different points of view about it. Period.
Representative Riley, I was not arguing with you. I was asking a question, absolutely not a partisan question either. Just asking. It's something that we as a district, it costs us money. And so the question is just, would you think about helping out and considering, when you look at legislation, how financially it is going to impact the people that you serve?
People do.
People you serve.
People do.
That's all I ask. I'm not saying you don't. That's not it.
Well, you just understand, as I say, I deal with 118 people. So I might do that for you, but if the other people don't do it, you still have an edict coming from Springfield. So that's the only thing. Next question, please. Any other questions? Okay. Work in progress. Work in progress. I was just asked all of you to keep up with what's going on again. A lot of people say, well, I want to get something to you. What's the best way to approach, a statewide elected official? It's not faxing him or her something. It's not even emailing. Pick up the phone. We answer the phone. I answered the phone the other day. Someone called the office. My secretary was out for lunch. I answered the phone, the person almost fainted. Well, legislators, I said, you don't know all legislators. If you call, you'll get an answer. So, thank you so much, and I'll come out anytime you want to. Don't forget about the other really good legislators in the area, because we think the same way, and we really want to see education flourish in the South and along with other things.
Representative, really appreciate your coming, and I think that this has been very educational, and I certainly appreciate your input, and we will certainly look for future updates and stay informed. Thank you very much.
Please, and something else, let me tell, I hope that a lot of the schools in the district, take a trip down to Springfield. Come down there, see us, we'll introduce you. Go to the museum and library. It's happen to be the state museum isn't, but there's a lot of really good things to see. And look us up. We will be glad to come out and meet you and all those kind of things. So, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you again. Next on the agenda, we have the Normandy Villa abatement bids. Dr. Besser?
Yes, thank you. If I could have Mr. Stashak, if you'll come up and introduce, we have the next two line items. There's a lot of information, and I know you've been working diligently leading this and working with our agencies for coming up this summer.
Yes. Good evening. We have some construction we'd like to do here on the and on subject B. Mr. Regal from Great Associates got to talk about that. Prior to that happening, we have some asbestos abatement that we need to make happen. For construction plan. So Mr. Mike Bartos is here from engineering. He's going to talk a little more in depth on that. Engineering's been working in the district for 20?
Since 2002.
2002. Getting rid of our asbestos for us. So Mike Bartos from engineering.
I'm Mike Bartos from Engineering. I'm the Director of Environmental Services. We put together the asbestos abatement bid specifications for the project. There's two work areas. One is associated with the boiler replacement project. So in order for them to do the boiler replacement project, we need to remove the asbestos that's associated with the boiler. And two restrooms are getting renovated. Also, we put together the work plan and specs for the other work area, which is the north end of the building, and they're going to replace the old floor tile that's located underneath the carpeting. So we're going to abate the entire north half of this building, starting in, if everything gets approved and goes ahead, start during spring break. So we received 7 bids for the project. The low bidder on the project was Hussar, and they were at $63,000 even. The second low bidder for the project was at $74,100. Anybody have any questions specifically?
So we've been doing this for 7 years. Has Hussar done any work for us before?
Hussar has not.
Oh, this will be the first time.
This is the first time. I know everybody who works at Hussar, so I have complete confidence that they're going to be able to complete the project on time and according to the bid specs.
I just haven't seen that name.
No, that's all right.
Just let the board know, we have a lot of work that needs to be done as far as abatement in this building. And as we deal with that, we'll start out with where we have our executive sessions, all the way down to our storage areas. So we will be moving people to we call it the fishbowl room, but it's our other commutable room where they will be staying for about a month, 6 weeks maybe. We're hoping within a month we can have this completed, and then they'll move back, but we need to replace the basement, or the tile in there and have it paved. Reason why is due to the carpet, it is starting to wear, and we can't just pull that up or else it'll start popping the tiles and we're gonna have an issue. So that's why we're doing that, and then of course our boiler needs to.
So is there are we doing the abatement in this building in phases?
We're gonna do it in phases, yeah. So next summer, I'll be looking at that whole end over there, the south end.
And is there a phase of, how many phases are there in total?
What do you think?
I think that
3?
3, 4 at the most. Probably get it done in 3.
We've always kind of put this building off, made sure we did the schools first for the kids, and
Yeah, all the other buildings are 95% bigger.
It's falls within budget.
Is the number of times you're gonna go after this just related to how you're gonna move people around and they're gonna be able to access?
Yeah, it is.
Keep the building functional at the same time, so.
Makes sense. So the less,
Yeah,
least amount of disruption.
the first discussion started, we'd do the north and south end, and it would just be too much of a disruption for everybody here, especially registration, people coming in, it'd be a mess. The phasing will be better, and the cost difference isn't that much.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions?
Well, I have one. Will most of the work be done, I know you want to start during spring break, but will most of the work be done during the summer?
Our work will start, actually, we're gonna start on the flooring area. And upon approval and everything, we have a March 29th start date. So we'll be done with that section in 2 weeks. And then after we're done with that, then the flooring will come in and the flooring will be replaced. So I'm not sure the duration on that is, probably 2-3 weeks, right? So, and then that'll be completed. The boilers to start after, can't start the boiler until the heating season is over and then shut down the boiler. So that should be around mid-April.
Any other questions?
All right, well, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. Next on the agenda, we have Life Safety Priority B and summer construction bids. Dr. Becker?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rego, you going to speak on this, or Scott, did you want to? We're both.
You have in front of you, I believe, our bid recommendation letter for some bids that we took for what's labeled as the 2016 district-wide life safety improvements. And if you remember, we were here a few months ago talking about this project. What it amounts to basically is replacement of boilers here at Normandy Villa, replacement of boilers, updating the toilet rooms, which are right outside the door here, and then some emergency lighting and exit lighting throughout the building. And then the other buildings in the district, we also, basically all the buildings are included to the extent that we're replacing emergency lighting and exit signs in all the buildings. And then we also have an alternate that we took to replace the boilers in Western Avenue. So that's pretty much the scope of the work in the district, and all the district buildings will be touched. And if you look at the, we have an extensive list of alternates, 8 quotes. First alternate, well, the base bid is not to replace all emergency lighting. It's to replace the specific fixtures that need to be replaced. There have been some issues over the years, and those fixtures are no longer functional. Alternate one is to replace it, but primarily one manufacturer's product. And when that happens, alternate one is to replace all of that manufacturer's products that aren't currently a problem. And then alternate three is to come in and basically replace all of the remainder of those devices within all the buildings. So when all is said and done, you will have the same device in all the buildings. From the standpoint of maintenance, upkeep, these things do tend to be somewhat problematic. You know, by taking those two alternates, you would basically have the same fixture everywhere in the district. What happens is over time, as renovations occur, you know, you add devices, as devices fail, you replace them with newer model devices because the ones that were there are no longer available. So what ultimately happens is what's happened here, it happens in every school district. You end up with kind of a hodgepodge, if you will, of devices within the building. And as long as they're all working fine, that's great. But they tend, as I say, to have a lot of problems with them, which makes it extremely difficult for someone like Scott to maintain those. So what we're going to do with base bids, we're going to fix all the ones that are broken. Again, with alternate one, we would fix all the ones that have been the most problematic. We replace all the ones that have been the most problematic, even though they may not be broken today. And then alternate three would, on top of that, replace literally all of the district. Alternate three, just for the renovation of the toilet rooms right out here in the hallway. And some of these are add alternates and some of them are deducts, and when we get to the chart, I'll explain that. And then alternate five is the elimination of the demolition cost of the removal of the existing boiler here. What we did was we took a price, just for the asbestos abatement, and oftentimes it's more cost effective to actually have an abatement contractor remove the boiler itself as well as the installation of the with it. What we wanted to do is basically have those two costs that we could compare with one another. And this would be, if you take alternate five, we remove the actual demolition of the boiler from this contract. Then alternate six, you may recall some of the past projects where we've had liquidated damages, we usually take an alternate bid, a deduct alternate to eliminate those liquidated damages. In other words, there's an amount that we charge the contractor who fails to make the substantiation date in accordance with our schedule. By eliminating this, we remove that penalty. Alternate seven, boiler replacement at Parker Junior High School. This actually is a boiler that failed
About a month and a half ago.
There are 4 boilers in the building, this is one of those 4. You know, you're functioning fine, odds are you can't function fine unless one of the boilers that's left fails. At which point you probably would need to address one of these two, either this one or the one that failed. Or the other scenario. Is this something you have to do now? No, we could postpone doing it probably. But again, it's kind of an insurance policy in case one of the other boilers is there, it does fail. This provides you a backup to occupy the building at the temperatures you want to occupy it. And then the final is the elimination of boiler replacement work at Western Avenue. There was some question about the age of those boilers, and we found out, probably enough from one of the contractors who was on the walkthrough, those boilers are approximately 15 years old. Now, if you go to any mechanical engineer, they'll tell you the life expectancy of a boiler is 20 years. They oftentimes is testament to that. It's here in this building, in fact. So this was a deduct alternate to remove those 2 boilers from the project. And when we get to the spreadsheet, that is all the recommendations. The next item in the letter are the alternate recommendations. Alternate 1, 2, and 3 or should be considered. Alternate 4 would be our recommendation that we not accept that, and that is the demolition of the boiler, removal of the demolition of the boiler. So what we're suggesting is that what's going to take place by the contractor who's going to execute this contract is in fact going to remove the boiler. And then alternate 5, I'm sorry, that's alternate 5.
I don't see an alternate.
It's not it, is it?
No.
same manufacturer for that boiler. Some of them had it as a $10,000 head, some of them had it as a $10,000 debt. The particular low bidder that we're talking about had it as $10,000 head. There's no reason to accept it as an ad. If it were deducted, we might want to give some consideration. But basically, if we don't accept it, all we know what's going to happen is we boiler that we specify if we want to buy it. So that was the recommendation on it. And then skipping to, five here. Boiler, I just described here, one to go up. 6 is liquidated damages, 7 is the boiler. Again, we're talking about part of it. And then back in 8, the recommendation is that we hold. It's something you could do today, but frankly, you probably got another 5 to 10 years at least on the boiler part of it. So we probably suggest you think about postponing that one. And then I want to flip to the spreadsheet. We're looking at color of the highlighted in yellow is the low there project construction. We took the opportunity to talk to them at length about the school work that they've done, as well as about the business in general, because they simply don't have a long resume in school. We've done an awful lot of work at the University of Illinois and at the University of Chicago, and have been working there for an awful long time, 15 years. Doing projects of various scope, various budgets. The university speaks very highly of them. Everything we could find in talking to them, as well as talking to some of the references they provide, is they do quality work. We talked to them at length about the scope of work, because if you look, you'll see that they're low by a significant amount on the base bid. And that tends to be kind of a, to get your attention. So we made a point of, as we always do, going through all of the scope of the work with them, making sure they understood what was involved, what the timelines were, what the alternatives were, and had a clear understanding of that, and we do give a talk. So it would be our recommendation, we can't find any reason not to award it to them. They be awarded the contract basically around 586.55. That needs to be some decisions are made on alternates. As far as the first rate or first field petition. And then the 12 is here as well. Yes.
Just a quick question. When you say that they have, Joseph Construction has limited experience working with schools, what they've done, universities and
right.
other places, what is the significance of that? I mean, I understand, is it that there's particular physical qualities about the school that they wouldn't have familiarity working with the university, or?
No, it's still public. Well, it's not, in one case, it's not public, it's private work. Perhaps if this were a different scope, we might be a little more concerned about that. It's really, the subcontractors that got, for example, the electrician would be doing all the emergency lighting exit signs, as well as the electrical work associated with boilers. The rest of here is actually the electrician we had in the Harper project. Very good company, no Paul talks about that. So they would be doing the general work. The mechanical contractor, the subcontractor that they've actually got would be doing boilers as well as the mechanical work. So the boiler rooms here is a company that our engineering firms work with other projects, so they know them very well. So again, we kind of took it to the next level of like the subcontractors who be doing a lot of the work. I would say that if you had, please, I'm not trying to do it around corner, if you had an architect who made that school work before, the scope of the project is not all that significant. We know we deal with the permitting process for the district, and we'll make sure that all goes through, and we'll watch their pay requests and make sure they don't have it themselves.
George, just real quick, from my understanding, for alternate 1, alternate 2, alternate 3, alternate 5, and alternate 8, are those reasonable from what I understood? Or am I missing one? Do we need to do alternate 4? We wouldn't want to approve that one, right?
No, you don't want to do 4.
Okay. Alternate 5, that's.
You do want to do that.
I'm sorry, 6, yeah.
6, you don't want to accept that.
Okay.
Okay?
And then 7 is an option. You think let's say we have a real bad winter next year and that boiler goes out, then what? We're down to 2, right?
Thanks very much.
Okay, so we'd still be okay?
You'd be okay, but I would, you'd probably be able to keep things from freezing, how comfortable would it get a building?
So we're down to 3 right now.
Not clear right now. They don't all operate at the same time except in extreme conditions. Okay? They're all 4 operate at the same time except in extreme conditions. They're probably all 3 of them operate, so like it's really not good.
If we get really cold, yes.
Yeah.
And if we did lose another one and we got cold, the 2 remaining ones are gonna be working 24 hours a day trying to keep up with the heat load.
Right. So if we were to purchase this one, take care of this work right now, 10 years from now, this price may escalate to gonna be more money.
Well,
So it's less than by now.
Yeah, that also the case that you're getting some value out of doing more than one building. Okay, so if that would be bid alone, but it could have been bid alone today, it would have been more expensive already.
And then alternate 8 is no, because those boilers have at least 5 years, but realistically probably 15. So that would be a no for 8. So base bid, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be a no, 5 would be recommend. 6 would be a no, recommend for 7, and 8 would be a no.
Isn't that the opposite, because isn't it a deduct?
No, 5 is,
Who's doing the?
5 is a deduct.
5 is yes.
So 5 and side 5 would be a yes,
Yes.
Right.
because asbestos is taking the boiler?
No.
And isn't that a no?
I'm sorry.
So that's a no.
Asbestos is not taking.
Hydroneering is demoing the boiler.
They are demoing.
Yes.
So that is a yes.
Yes.
Yes, but alternate 8 then,
Is it no?
So 4 is a yes, 5 is a,
Is it yes?
no, alternate 8 is a deduct, so that would be yes, correct, because we're not going to do the boiler.
That's right. It's a deduct, so it's a yes. You're
It's a
right.
yes.
Yes.
all right, so let's go through this, right? The recommendation for the board is the base, yes.
Yes.
Alternate 1, yes. Alternate 2, yes. Alternate 3, yes. Alternate 4, yes. No.
Alternate 4 is
No.
A no. Okay. Alternate 5 is a yes, because it's a deduct. Alternate 6 is a no. Alternate 7 is a yes. And alternate 8 is a yes, because it's a deduct.
correct.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this right here. So I'm looking at Joseph Constructions and the low bid on the base. So I'm looking at less of a deduction for others, and this is partly I don't understand. If I go to like Chicago Heights Construction Company, where they are, much higher base, but then I'm looking at their alternate numbers that seem substantially lower than the alternates for the ones that we're talking about, including the deduct, which is at 170 as opposed to 140. So like, I'm just skimming over this, right? So I just want to make sure I understand that, yes, we're looking at a lower base, but we're looking at higher on the alternates. Are we making, we don't look at it that way?
No, when you add them up, you'll find out that they're still low.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't look at this really quick. I mean, I was looking at this really quick. I didn't do that, so it's still low. Okay.
Just for the Board of Education, from my perspective, alternate 1, 2, or 1 and 2, along with the base bid on these emergency lights, that is a really, if we can get this done, that'll help us out a lot. It'll save money in the other end with our maintenance. The Normandy Villa bathrooms there, they're definitely in need. We're already doing work with the piping there. And what else? Number 5, of course, that's a deduct. We want to take that. And then that boiler, I get real worried when a boiler goes down, especially when a building's used to running on 4. So at this point, I had to recommend that. So I agree with the recommendation. I've spoken to Green Associates and Scott about this. I think these are good recommendations for us to do.
Any further questions?
Did you talk to any of the other companies at length about their bids?
We talked to Joseph, not Joseph, I'm sorry, Chicago Heights was the second one there. We talked to that, yes.
I'm gonna ask the same question I ask every time we do something with construction. What avenues do we take, if not, if any, to ensure that we are getting a diverse slate of bidders? And that, again, we have a diverse community, and looking at to ensure that Cumberland is representative of the folks who are paying the taxes and so. Same question I can ask all the time.
I appreciate that. What we have to do is we have to, unless there's statutes in place that mandate and dictate the rules, we have to go by the rules of the state board of finance. What we try to do is we publish this advertisement for bids, but I know we publish in the local newspaper, it also goes out. We take care of distributing it to trade organizations around the practically all over Illinois, for that matter. And the hope is that, some of the contractors and subcontractors may not necessarily, be local here. Some of the folks they have working for them on site, union halls are.
Yeah.
So we try to get the word out as best we can. We certainly encourage, pre-bid meetings, where we encourage them to be interested in bidding. That's not necessarily just my contractors, but any contractors involved. Come hear about the project.
Where is Joseph Construction located? Is Linwood?
No, it was in the mall.
Any further questions? Thank you very much, I certainly appreciate it.
Hey, you want to talk about the...
Yes, I do. Rose, can you give a 2 minute?
I can.
Because they've read through it already,
Okay, good.
just the highlights.
Well, then I'll skip all of them. The only contract that's still outstanding is Harvard. I think we've got 2 pay requests we consider for 2 others. The rest of them are closed out. The landscaper, we still got some loose ends to tie up, so the paperwork goes kind of last in that contract. We expect that to happen in the next month. Then the parking lot improvement projects are now, last summer, all closed out successfully. The systems have paid off.
All the parcels items have now been addressed.
So all that address, we're just waiting on landscape. Get started later too. That's always last.
Well, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Reba.
Next on the agenda, we have school fees. Dr. Duster?
Yes, thank you. The school fees you see in front of you, there's only one change we're recommending to the Board of Education, and that is actually for the lunch, and it's going up 8 cents due to the federal rate. So that is what we are recommending, and we try to keep them low or freeze them the best that we can to help our families out. So we're still doing fine as far as revenue coming in from all of these fees.
One thing on school fees, and it came up last year, and it was corrected. I just want parents to be noticed it about when you made payments for fees for lunch or for other things, there was like this $1,000, an additional fee. It was like every time you went into it, it was additional dollar. It was really impactful, and whatever they've done to make sure that is one fee. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference in a lot of families. So
Thanks for bringing
it up. We listened to them, and that's changed. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Questions? Next on the agenda, we have the transportation bids. Dr. Duster?
Yes, thank you. I was extremely pleased with the participation we had from our transportation companies around the area. We had a lot, as you can see when you go through the information. But to make a long story short, we will be recommending, excuse me, Illinois Cook, which Illinois Cook, there's Kickard in there, there's Page Busing, there's different types of buses of that nature. And they're coming in at $197. $197.79. They froze that for 3 years. Currently, with Positive Connections, we're paying $193. Next year goes to $203. The year after goes to $213. be a savings for us of approximately $26,000 next year, and then a free the following year, so it'll be about $52,000 savings, which we're very pleased with. We also had discussions with them in regards to getting our kids from orchestra, because that's been, or from the schools to the junior high for orchestra and other types of things, as far as field trips, etc. And there's plenty of buses, there's plenty of drivers, they're a very stable company, I'm very pleased. So I'm highly recommending them at our next meeting, and I was very pleased. But you will see in the bid specs, or how the bid openings took place and where everybody bid and put their dollar amounts on. So I think that Cook Illinois Corporation with Page Transportation was extremely responsible and really wants our business.
Sounds like great news. Do you have any further comments or discussion?
Have they put in a bid in the past?
We had Kicker in the past, and they were always a little bit higher than Positive Connections.
Right, no, I'm talking about the one that, the company that you're recommending now. Have they-
It's the same company.
Oh,
It's
same.
Illinois Cook, yeah, they just,
It's like a car.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
car. So, we're pleased. They have the cameras on the buses, monitors we need for special ed, so they're very well.
They're the ones that we're looking at also, they were part of that, I don't know if it's a study, but there was the Chicago bus system where you can actually look on your app to see where the bus is. They were playing around with that. I don't know if they implemented it, but they were a big advocate for that. It's really amazing.
Yeah, after approval, we can have those discussions with them. I know that with Kicker, with 153, we have discussions, and we do this also Positive Connections, but they have the GPS, we do the calling, et cetera, especially when it's cold, the buses going around to pick up the children, so they're very much wanting to work with us, and they appreciate our business.
That sounds fantastic. Any questions, comments? That's fantastic. So next on the agenda, we have the minibus lease quote. Correct, Chester?
Yes, with the minibus lease quotes, in the past several years, we've been going out. These are the two buses that run our EC kids and our special ed children. They also, we do mail runs with them, et cetera. We have 2 employees for the district that work for us and make all these runs. And it's less expensive, of course, than going out and getting a company to do it. So we always have a lease. We lease a bus for 1 year for 18,000 annual miles. What I'm recommending this year, we have a quote in here for 2 years of a lease. It's actually coming in of a yearly decrease of $1,430. There's no reason why we shouldn't be going for 2 years instead of 1 year. And that is the recommendation to go ahead and do that. Once it's approved, we'll order them and they come in July.
Any questions? Fantastic. Next on the agenda, we have the HF course edition, Algebra 2. Oh, I'm sorry. Next on the agenda, we have the IMRF section 125. Chester?
Yes, thank you. I will ask Ms. Labella to please come up here and discuss a little something we found out that we need to have.
We had an IMRF audit, and everything went really well until they started looking up all the resolutions we were supposed to have on file. For the section 125 plan, so for those of our employees who are IMRF, if they're making their premium payments through a section 125 plan, we don't take federal or state tax, but we do take IMRF. And that's been a long-standing history here, and that money is counted as credible earnings for them for their pension. That's been the history, that's been what has always been done, but in order to do that, you're supposed to have a resolution on file with IMRF. We do not. And from what I understand, talking to a lot of the business officials, apparently this is something that nobody did, and everyone's getting the same finding. So we bring to you the resolution that says, keep doing what you've been doing, sign a piece of paper, send it in, and move on. It's really a housekeeping issue. Questions?
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have the HF course edition, Algebra 2, Trigonometry. Dr. Justin.
Yes, we are blessed in our district, as you know, to have very special students. I'm bringing forth 3 extremely bright children in mathematics, and we have been working with them. One child is in 5th grade this year, will be in 6th grade next year. We have 1 child, or 2 children that are in 7th grade this year, that'll be in 8th grade admission. Anyway, those 3 children are in honors geometry class and doing extremely well in the class. So the next progressional step for them will be Algebra 2 Trig. And we would provide this to them. I called to the high school, Dr. Mansfield and I have had a lot of discussions, and he and I are extremely concerned with putting a 6th grader in a class with freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. This doesn't happen often in our district, but it has happened in the past where we've had to make arrangements for these children. So with that being said, what we discussed is to have an HF teacher teaching these 3 students, and there's no one from 153 to share this cost with. It is just our students. This teacher would be teaching them. I don't know when. We'd have to figure out the details. But they would be taking Algebra 2 Trig next year at the high school. Parents would be responsible for taking them there. We may be able to bring them home depending on the schedule, or back to the school if it matches up with one of our foreign language classes. I'll have to figure that stuff out. And they will receive the high school credit for that. The 2 8th graders, they'll be fine. They'll be moving on the next year to high school. But we still have the other child who will be in 7th grade, and he will be going to calculus the following year. So with that being stated, the high school bond's worried about running out of math for him, so he's already contacting the University of Illinois to try to assist with that. So anyway, I bring this forth. This is something that we don't do often, but this is a need for these 3 children. And the cost of that teacher for one section is $11,414. And we spend a lot of money for our special ed services, of course. This is on the opposite end of the spectrum. So the recommendation is being brought forth, and then the junior high principal and our curriculum department will work out the details.
I just have one question. I read this before with Dr. going to high school. If we have an individual teacher for them, why wouldn't we then send them to the high school? Why wouldn't we have them just be taught in an environment where there are junior high kids, and then don't have the parents ever figure out back and forth?
It would just, parents, it's been the process where the parents do take them over there. There's going to be more of a cost if we have the teacher coming over here too.
Oh, they are already there, so it's just a teacher workforce. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, the teachers are there.
And if we could match this up with the kids who are already going for foreign language, then this would.
Yeah, that's what we'll try to do. So I don't know if there'll be a 0 hour or what, so.
Did you say they're already there, these children are already there, these 3?
No, they're not.
Oh, they're not.
Next year they would be. So we'll have to call the parents and make arrangements. And I just need to get an approval on the dollar amount.
Can I ask, because this is good to have a dollar impact this question. We have a number of, they may not be a lot, but a number of 6th graders who are now already taking algebra. I think I'm going to try regular algebra. Because that was, you remember that whole, kind of found out they were taking
Yes,
algebra.
I remember.
Well, I'm not going to bring that myself. I'm just going to say, because the next year they'll be in 7th grade taking geometry. And then you get to that same situation where they're now in 8th grade taking algebra 2, and then the same situation where they're in class with a junior. So is this a one-time, or are we looking at a longer-term potential here? Because we work very hard at, obviously, the junior high level, to get folks ready for math. This is probably not going to be an isolated incident.
No, I mean, this is a good problem to have.
Yeah,
I'm very,
yeah,
very happy about it. But what we will do as well is we have a teacher that we could, that teaches now the geometry and algebra 1. We'd have to see how comfortable that teacher, we have a couple years to deal with getting set up for that. But I may be coming back again and asking to do the same thing.
Okay, so we're talking now right now, I don't say Band-Aid, we're talking about a one-time fix, or we get a longer solution for potentially this same thing happening over and over. Okay.
And parents feel a lot more comfortable, in my opinion, having the high school teachers teaching the class.
So for the one student, the 5th grader who will be taking Algebra 2 Trig will be in 6th grade, and it'll be a 1-to-1 ratio. I mean, this one student will have
3 to 1.
So the teacher will be teaching the 3 students, But still, I mean, there is no other example anywhere else across our district where there's a 3-to-1.
You know, if I may, this is, I think, a great example of where, you know, we are bound to meet the needs of special ed students. And often the group that's forgotten are kids who are way at the other end.
I don't disagree. I just wanted to get clarity that we will have 3 students and 1 teacher. I mean, so these 3 students will get the incredible benefit of having this being in a class.
But we have
with just
special,
3 students.
we have special ed kids, that same situation.
I just wanted to get clarity that this was, make sure I understood. It's 3-to-1 ratio.
Piggybacking on this, so these children, of course, must place out of the gifted program, all right?
They're gifted, it's just this math sequence they're taking, they're doing very well with it. We have to keep moving. That's our job as educators, we have to keep moving the kids.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
How much vetting do we do with a particular teacher assigned to this assignment?
I can have more discussion. Can you be more specific?
We're going to pay for the teacher, sounds like.
Yeah.
Has volunteered to share the cost, right?
No, he has not. No, it's been asked.
We should know who the teacher is. Does the teacher have any special skills in teaching younger kids, that kind of thing?
I can get all that information, yeah. So, that would be our goal.
That's actually a good question. I mean,
It's a very good question.
Algebra 2 trait teachers are used to teaching their secondary ed. They're not your, used to teaching your 10, 11-year-old Algebra 2. Yes.
Is there a, actually, piggybacking the question, is there a certification issue with being certified from, well, I guess it'd be 6 through 12, so that would cover that. So.
We'll find a caring teach that, who's can work with that. That'd be definitely a question we address. Any other questions?
The high school is ready to help these kids when they're this far ahead at the high school level. And that, another, to go to that other question, I want a little reassurance from Dr. Maxwell that they've got something in place aside from the advanced topics of health.
He just said he was contacting the university.
We had a student in the past where it was very high in math. I'm not for sure which district the child was from, but they stated that they had to hire a professor from the University of Illinois to teach the child.
It might be nice just to, we're setting precedent, which is, I think, a good precedent, but we're setting a precedent, so it would be nice to know that they're going to support us in setting that precedent, because otherwise we're kind of fiddling, you could be at risk of fiddling away. Yeah.
Well,
money and potential, I mean, maybe we would pursue alternate paths depending upon the answer we got from them. No, actually, that's also very true, Mr. Simmons, yes.
That's a concern too, if you go to a private school and you've taken the Algebra 1 or the geometry honors classes, some private schools do not take that credit. And they make the child take it over as a freshman.
We'll take our responsibility to counsel the parents to possible outcomes.
I think in terms of this agenda item, that this is, again, an excellent problem to be faced with, and that I think this is certainly, looks to be a very promising solution. So, there any further comments? Next on the agenda, we have ELL staffing, 2016 to 2017. Dr. Fester.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Work, would you like to talk about this one real quick, if you don't mind, Mr. Paredes, letter K as well, so when she's up here.
Absolutely.
So similar to special ed, how they have caseload limits, school code recommends that ELL have similar caseloads. And what we're recommending is, due to our numbers, we're having a 25% increase per year for the past 2 years. 3 years back, the increase was up to 45%. So we're still continuing to grow in that population, and due to that school code, we need to add a teacher to keep up with that population. Any questions?
Did we add a teacher last year? Or was it?
It was bilingual, and so we actually at the time did not have anyone who could fill that position, so we had to file amendment with the state, and we hired another ESL teacher, which actually kept those numbers down. And the coordinator, which is the next agenda item, instead of being a full-time coordinator, is part-time coordinator and part-time teaching, which was the assignment the previous year. So we're still looking for that bilingual resource, so it would be the bilingual resource teacher as well as his ESL teacher.
We were at a job fair today, we had 2 administrators there, and we're trying to find people there. It's very difficult, very challenging.
There are a lot of people that do have the ESL certification. Bilingual is hard to find.
And you said it's been increasing by 25%?
The last 2 years were 25%. The year before that, so 3 years back, I think it was 40%. So we slowed down a little bit, but we continue to see those numbers increase.
Well, 25% is still pretty good.
Yeah. So that brings us to the next agenda item, which is the case manager. We currently have case managers in special ed, and we are recommending that that coordinator position become an administrative position, and they become the case manager of ELL. Once that number hits 200 students, a person with a general administrative type 75 or a superintendent endorsement can no longer be in charge of that, and you need someone who has an ESL or a bilingual endorsement to do that. So we are planning ahead. Additionally, if you remember last year with that monitoring visit that we had, that was a recommendation that we presented a year ago in January. So we would like to move that to be an official administrative position.
Once approved by the board, we'll post that and see what we get for people coming in.
What was the magic number again?
200.
200?
Right now, we're at 125. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have a discussion of Vision 2020. And I guess the question related to this is, are we interested at this time as a board in proceeding toward a formal adoption of a resolution to support Vision 2020? Or should we be looking at some other initial steps? Or how should we proceed from this, having had a chance to examine Vision 2020 over the last 4 weeks? Does anyone have any initial viewpoints?
Mine is not necessarily required, and it sounds a little like, I'm still not sure I'm clear on the financial implications of the district. I just prove it as.
And I think that's something that Dr. Duster had pointed out in our last committee as a whole meeting, where there is some concern that if we adopt this, formally adopt this resolution, that we might be wrapping ourselves up with a funding formula that we may not like. Is that correct, Dr. Duster?
Yeah, it's our, we had a concern, we had a lot of discussion about that. This is really up to the board. If you like my thoughts, my recommendation on this, I know that right now they're in committee, they're talking about this a little bit more. And I would like to see, I think they're going to be addressing the unfunded mandates. This may be something you want to bring back after we have more information on that, or you want to vote on it now, it's up to the board, but I know that is being addressed at this point. So,
If they're still talking about this, or there's some things that may be tweaked, changed, or added, what are the downsides to just kind of about not doing this right now?
Ms. Morris, do you see any downsides?
There is neither an upside nor a downside. There's no financial liability associated with anything in the resolution. There's nothing. It's really a rather inconsequential thing.
Well, when I say a way of saying, it might not necessarily just be financial, I'm just like comfortable with stance, the school board, or relationship. I'm just asking that type of question, are there upsides, downsides for that, not just financial.
How I see it is if you vote yes for it, you're taking a stand, that yes, we support this. If you say no, not at this time, or you table it, not at this time, that's basically what that means. What I know right now is that they're still in committee and they're talking about the unfunded mandates. And what I personally do is I wait to see how that shakes out before I would approve something. But as far as the board, if you want to approve it, it's up to you. If you don't, it's up to you as well.
I think,
no harm.
I think one way to look at this also is that, and I've had conversations with other districts in the area where you can support this. ISB is going to continue to work through this model anyway. And, certainly you can support Vision 2020 in other ways other than just signing a resolution. And I think that one easy way to do that is to, become better acquainted with it and to look to see how the philosophy of Vision 2020 relates to our own district. And, over the course of, our time here, use that as a tool to decide if this is something we want to pursue in the future, or is this something we want to gravitate to, or is this something that it doesn't really speak to us, our needs, or our goals, our vision, or our mission. And again, there's no rush. Does anyone else have any further comments on this? We can always come back to this later on.
Well, since there are unfunded mandates, I agree that we should wait just in case there's some tweaking that would be beneficial.
I'm sorry, I guess I just don't understand that, but
Well, they talk about in committee, if they could do anything
the school board saying that it doesn't appreciate unfunded mandates. We're about to look at a bunch of policy changes tonight. A lot of them are all unfunded mandates. It costs us a lot of money. And it's not a partisan stance. I know that this evening was seen as a partisan stance, but it's a question that our board faces. We spend money. How do we want to ask the state government, how do we want to have a voice in how they spend money? We control our funds, but we also are beholden to how the state controls our larger funds and how they pay us. That's all it is. Absolutely all it is. Whether we support this resolution or not has no impact. Doesn't change anything.
Well, I know we wanted to put it on the agenda, so we're having a discussion, so.
Exactly, but really the discussion should be after everyone read the resolution, how do they feel about what the resolution says? And the resolution, aside from saying supporting kind of the rough outline of 2020, really at the end of it says support necessary legislative changes to implement this recommendation and comprehensive change to support education in the state of Illinois. It's really pretty broad. So again, I had hoped that we would have a richer discussion of how we as a board wanted to pursue that. And it really hasn't been a very rich discussion. It's been kind of here or there. So let's move on. We've taken a lot of time on something and we haven't really had any meaningful discussions. So we should move on.
Are there any further comments? With that then, we on to our next agenda item.
What are we gonna
Oh, I think that we should, why don't we table that until maybe we see a little bit more in terms of where they are with unfunded mandates or whatever issue or what the state is doing.
Where food is from, I don't know why you're bothering to table it, I mean, there's been no interest on the part of the board to discuss it, I don't see any interest.
I'm fine. Does anyone else have any interest in pursuing this at this time?
I do, I don't want to, I do want to hear a little bit more about it, I mean, and I have read it. So,
I'm
when I
not.
come to bring this up, that I don't know, this is. So,
Okay.
we can bring it forward next time, or is that sure?
Why don't we do this then? If anyone else has interest in it down the road, you let me know and we can talk about it.
This is something that's kind of floating in the air, right? We need to make a decision on this eventually.
Well, no.
Okay, great.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a special, I'm sorry. Oh, next on the agenda, special meeting for evaluation discussion. Okay, the board ad hoc committee met on February 3rd, 2016 to review the superintendent's evaluation tool. Timeline was developed and a meeting date needs to be scheduled for the board evaluation conversation. So in short, we need to have some sort of consensus on when in the week of March 14th being Monday, will we meet again to discuss the superintendent evaluation as a board? I'm going to just throw this out there that March 17th is not a good day for me, but any other day of the week is perfectly fine.
So we have a meeting on the 14th,
We have a meeting on the 14th.
It needs to be that way.
Yeah, so just historically on the conversation that came up was that we had provide us a better avenue to be able to have richer discussions and conversations, so it doesn't need to happen before we have to move on.
No, I was suggesting 17.
I think you said.
He said not the 15th.
17.
Oh, he said not 17. Okay.
I'm actually open, so whatever you decide.
I'm okay with the 15th.
We don't want to tag on to any regular school board meeting.
Well,
Is that possible? Can we do it on the 14th? This is school board meeting, that's my calendar, that's board meeting, right?
Executive session discussion. So we can do it then.
it's okay with me, and it's okay with everybody else.
Can we manage the agenda?
That's, I mean, here's, my only concern is that, that might be might be a long conversation, it might be a short conversation, but, I think our original thought on that was that we should have, a specific day that week where that's all we're focused on. Can we not, is everyone else not available?
Well, 15th was fine.
John, you okay for the 15th?
15th, as of now, I'm around.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. As of now?
I'm around.
Okay.
March 15th.
March 15th.
Yes.
Mrs. Marks?
I have plans to leave Tuesday morning and not be back until Thursday night.
Mrs. Huckabee?
So we're talking about the 15 proposed to the 14.
15th as opposed to the 14th. We're okay with that? So at this point, it looks like the 15th.
We're looking at what, like, blocking 6 to 8, you saying it's all 6, 6 to 7?
Yeah, I think just.
Oh, well, that was work, I started.
Yeah, like 7 to 8. Just block out 7 to 9, and if we're done earlier, great. So we're all agreed?
And this is an executive session, so we have to.
It's executive session.
It is executive session.
Okay. So then we will move on to our next item on our agenda, which is the first reading of revised policies 2-100, 2-150, 2-200, 2-200, 590, 500, 615, 650, 660, 6-160, 6-270, 6-280, 6-340, 750, 7-100, 7-130, 7-140, 7-290, 7-300, 7-305, 7-340, and 8-30. Dr. Justice.
Now, the summaries are there. These are just rewritten, some revisions to the policies. There's a concussion policy that's in here, and I've already met with our nurse on that. There's a team. The board's going to have to appoint a team to, or a committee to measure this and kind of run it. So we already have that all set up, and I can bring a resolution as soon as we get it done after the policy's been created. But we're doing a lot of the concussion items that are listed in the policy. There's a few things that we need to work on, and we will bring that forward. So other than that, everything else just basically some revision.
And these are all recommendations from the press?
Yes. It's not in here, but we have a policy. I'm going to bring it for a first reading, but press, I need to contact them, say we're saying something different than what press is saying. So I'll have to address that later this week.
Do you happen to know, did you see the policy that was?
I don't have it memorized.
Okay, that's fine. All right then, we'll look forward to that. Are there any comments or concerns or questions? Discussion? Okay, with that, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is our coming to order summaries. Mrs. Odom is unable to make it today, so we'll postpone that. And instead, we have Lisa Harrell, who will be reviewing chapters 6 and 7.
Okay, I sent this to everyone, and so this will be a high level, because I know that we all have it. It's just for going back to this. The chapters I had were 6 and 7 conducted meeting, and they were on the minutes. So in the conducted meeting, there were, I think, 10 items that they were talked about. Cool stuff in here. Establishing a quorum, methods of action, deliberating, proposed actions, voting, majority rule, striving for consensus, rescinding a board action, parliamentary procedure, adjourn and reconvene meetings, and then regular meeting scenarios. So just my overview of this, and then you can go back if there are questions you have for this. I'm going to make this a teaching session and spend our time on this, but the establishing quorum piece of it was really what a lot that I heard, honestly, when I read this again, which I didn't realize, I think, around parliamentary procedure being in place for the board is a way that we should conduct our meetings. But it really, I think there was a lot of written over and over again about making sure that the parliamentary procedures and how we run our meetings does not agree with what the meetings are about. But there are several little points in here that if you have a chance to look at On page 36, if you write it down, I'm looking at it again, there was a simplified chart of parliamentary motions for school boards. I do a parliamentary procedure in large meetings, and we don't have to get Jack Jill, a large organization, we deal with 75, 80, 100 some people. When you have smaller boards, where you have 7 people, it's not a conversation, but it's still about keeping order. So I think we can honestly do a better job as a board about truly understanding how to make motions. When motions, because we decided here that even when we call a meeting to order, we close meetings, that we look for a first and then a second, and that's not necessarily how some boards do it, which I didn't realize, because I'm still thinking, okay, this is exactly how we do it everywhere. But again, it was a lot in here about understanding what was policy, what is specifically things you have to do, and what are things that we decided as boards about how we're implementing our meetings. I think it is worth a conversation in our maybe retreat or something. I know I'm like, retreat in my head sometimes, but to go back to how we decide how we run meetings, because I think we can be a lot more disciplined around it. Because sometimes we let conversations go off kilter that we should be taking a motion. And like in some boards, when they said we're going to talk about how you deal with motions, some boards have you take a motion first and then a second, and then you have a conversation about it, which is how we do it. And they gave some of the strong points about doing that is because you usually do it when you have something clear on the table and allows for kind of a constructive conversation. But what it can do is to stifle some really open, free conversations because there's an assumption that everybody's kind of understand what the motion is as well. So just some really good things to think about, but it is worth going through piece by piece, I think, this particular one as a board.
And that certainly is an item that will be discussed tomorrow to some degree at the board retreat.
There was one quote that was in there that I pulled out. I was trying to think what all, because of, 10 different topics, 10 different information. But it said here, slavish dedication to parliamentary law is likely to be non-productive, if not actually disruptive. When you are soon in trouble if you interpret the manual literally. The hazard of literal and legalistic interpretation is that it will tend to make procedure more prominent and thus more important than the substantive issues under discussion. One caveat I make to that is that when we don't understand them, parliamentary procedures, we may use them wrong, and then they take precedence over the issues because we're trying to figure out, wait, do we take a motion, do we take a second? Wait, is there discussion? Can we have a discussion now? And that has gotten us off kilter a little bit. So I think this is worth everyone reading and not just a summary. Any questions around this? Like I said, this is very powerful.
Everyone should be reading it.
And this, that's what I'm saying, this is not me teaching you something. This was a lot of stuff that came out of it, and it was a real chapter. And frankly, I don't know if I've remembered this since I started. So, okay. And the next one was recording a meeting. Kathy, by the way, you did a fabulous job because a lot of these things that you put out in the meeting, so thank you very much. The chapter on recording minutes, 12 piece that came out, the purpose of the minutes, which we know very much is you're taking minutes of what happens. The conversation I think we've had, I think there was a great decision about, do we have these really detailed minutes where there's something might be left off? Did we forget that? Was that on purpose? Was it on accident? As opposed to these very the general minutes that we have, but we also record the meetings, which is very important to people to go back and look at. Talk about the recording secretary, which we have someone that takes our notes and keeps the notes for us, which is Kathy. How she records minutes, what minutes should be included, then the minutes for closed meetings. So, about that as well. Initiating a referendum, adjourning to another date. Other official requirements, I'm going to go back to one of those things. Amendments to minutes, distribution of minutes, storing and indexing minutes. And then minutes are a public record. One of the things I want to go back to where it said the amendments to minutes and then the distribution of minutes. If we don't, and if you're not looking at the minutes before we kind of approve them, please look over them in detail. I know they're very general minutes, but I know that there have been a couple times when we caught something that they have had somebody's name on it, and then found out they either weren't there to make that decision, it shouldn't have been, or maybe someone's on the phone, and be very clear, because once it's in record, it's in record. The biggest thing obviously that came out was a really easy quote that said, just remember, if it isn't in the minutes, the school board didn't do it. And I know that we've had situations, we've had to refer back to minutes, and like, well, it's not there. I think the pre-recording really does help quite a bit, but it still is the official minutes that count. So we need to make sure we're just doing a very diligent job, and not just taking the minutes, but make sure we're reviewing them. The one on minutes was interesting. I mean, it was good, and it was helpful for us to know. I think that's Kathy does a great job at that, so I don't think that if you had to send it, I really would say please go and take a look at the 6 again. This is worth the conversation, because we may not all agree on some things.
Well, you know what, and when we had this conversation in May, where Dr. Duster had suggested this, that, and I think this is an excellent suggestion, because it really is something that, if you don't reflect on this, and this is really a cornerstone of good teaching too, if you don't reflect on it, after a while it becomes generalized. And it's very helpful in the process of continuous improvement to constantly be aware and constantly reflect freshly upon the organization and yourself as well. And so thank you. I really appreciate your presentation.
You know what, honestly, when we started this, when we first started saying we're going to do this, I was thinking, okay, we're all going, so we have to vote, why are we doing this? However, a couple of things I think, Simmons brought out his presentation before that I had looked at, I had to look back and encourage me to look at that chapter again, and it just, I think, helps us to refresh. So, thanks for the suggestion.
I just would like to point out that on April 25th, we're going to hear from Michelle Horth, reading chapters 8 and 9. And then again, on May 23rd, we look forward to Merle Huckabee. Since Mrs. Odom couldn't be here today, I'm going to see if possibly she could do it at the next regular board meeting as an informational item, or at the next CAL, if that is looking at this. At the next available opportunity, let's just say. Are there any further questions?
No,
Okay.
can I just add something? I want to go back to the policies. 7-100 was the policy that you referenced, Dr. Duster, and that should be removed from that list.
Thank you.
I thought that we had done it as well, but I just wanted to check on that.
7:100, I'll bring back next meeting if we get more clarification.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. The board will now go into executive session to discuss matters relating to personnel. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have a roll call, Mrs. Bruno?
Okay, Marks?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Huckabee? Yes. Worth?
Yes.
Carroll?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes, the motion is passed. We should be in executive session for no more than about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Yes.
After executive session, there will be a special board meeting immediately following. We have one agenda item that is being recommended for approval. So if you would stay, we would greatly appreciate it.
I hope you do. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the committee as a whole meeting in executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Horth. Move the roll call, Mrs. Bruno.
Okay. Carroll?
Yes.
Worth?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Marks? Yes. Paredes?
Yes, the motion is passed. Your executive, committee of whole meeting is ended. Welcome to the special meeting of the Foster School District, Monday, February 22nd, 2016. I do roll call, Mrs. Bruno.
Okay, Simmons?
Here.
Carroll?
Here.
Marks? Worth?
Here.
Huckabee? Here. Paredes?
Here, and first up on our agenda, we have have an information action item. Dr. Guster?
Yes, thank you. If I could have Robin Latman please come up to the podium. Hi, Robin. I want to introduce to the Board of Education and to the community, have a press release. Tom will give this to you later. We'll send a picture as well. Flossmoor School District 161 is pleased to announce the appointment, after approval here, of Ms. Robin Latman as the district's special education director. Ms. Latman brings with her a wealth of administrative experience and commitment to students, as well as the ability to work collaboratively with parents and faculty. Ms. Latman's experiences as a director of special education, a cooperative special education supervisor, and principal have enabled her to develop qualities and leadership skills necessary to work with all stakeholders. She will continue to provide quality educational experiences and learning opportunities for our special education students and staff. Ms. Latman will be replacing Ms. Nancy Wilson, who has dedicated herself to our learning community for the past 25 years. Ms. Wilson is retiring at the end of the school year, and we thank her for her service she has provided to the school district. She will be missed, and we will wish her well in her retirement. Please join us in welcoming Ms. Latman to School District 161. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion at this time to approve the appointment of the Director of Special Education as presented.
I will make a motion that we accept the Director of Education, Special Education candidate as presented.
Second, Mrs. Huckabee. Mrs. Bruno, give a roll call.
Okay. Carol?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Marks? Yes. Paredes?
Yes, the motion is passed. Welcome to Flossmoor District 161.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Board, we'd like to shake your hand as well, but before we do that, would you mind saying a few words to the board and the community? We're going to put you on the spot right away.
Sure. I'm really excited to be part of Flossmoor School District 161. I was a student here back in the day. I attended Heather Hill School, and I attended Flossmoor Junior High, which is now Parker. And then I went on to HF. I went to Northern Illinois University. I have a BS degree in mathematics, and I have taught math. I've been an assistant principal. I've been a supervisor. I've been a director in all different kinds of communities, and very diverse communities, very undiverse communities, very high-achieving districts, very low-achieving districts. So I kind of bring with a gambit of tools in my toolbox to help continue the high-achieving district that we have. So I'm really excited to be.
Well, we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you want to start with Mr. Simmons?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
I'll entertain a motion to end our special meeting of Board of Education. Please second. Mrs. Dorr, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Ended.